Welcome, friends. As we recognize this infinite that we are, there's a recognition that there is nothing separate. And in my experience, it has brought me even fuller into the world and into my body. So I'd like to just show how this has shown up in my life. But to begin with, I just want to make a little bit more distinction about what is it to discover this that we are? What is it to awaken to this infinite being and to this inseparable being? So, we start out once we decide that we're a person and we think we've got a name and we think that this body is us. When this body hurts, we say, I hurt. Or when this body dies, we say, I die. And then at some point, we might recognize that we just are not our bodies. And then we might recognize that we're something more timeless, like perhaps a soul. And so we have a sense that there's something beyond this body. But even still, there's an individualization that holds on to preserving an identity. An identity is a set of traits or a set of expectations or a set of preferences. You might find day to day in your life that you have preferences that they just seem like they're you. Or traits. This is how I am. I like it this way, or I do it this way, or I have this skill. Or you have things that you want from other people. I want them to honor me in this particular way. Maybe they don't have to honor you in this other way. Some people really care about what words somebody says to them. They don't want somebody, or if they're angry at them. Other people care more about how do people maneuver your money or your children. We have a certain sense that we own whatever it is that matters to us, our respect or our reputation or how we look or whatever it is, our virtues. We want them to be acknowledged. And all of that is just a lot of work, a lot of individualization. We have to kind of keep mental track of what these things are and what are other people doing about them. What do I need to do to maintain whatever level I want for each of those things? It's work, a lot. So when we notice that there's something potent, alive, infinite, before any physical existence, before any soul existence, there is this intelligence, this creative source, endless energy, bottomless love and harmony. And we start to recognize that it is its aliveness percolating up here. There isn't an individual aliveness. There's one awareness peering through everybody's eyes. Then all of that individualization just can relax because this infinite awareness peering through our eyes, this unstopping being, starts to become more and more primary. So in my discovery, I find myself less and less defended, less and less opinionated, but interestingly, more willing to go forward in the world because risks don't seem to matter as much. This that I am, the infinite, is unharmable. So whatever seems like the right thing, the appropriate thing, the thing calling me forth in life to do, I can do, because those other concerns about what are people going to think, or what's going to happen to my bank account, or what's going to happen to my kids, those kinds of concerns just seem, well, handled. So this infinite being is arising as us, and the infinite being is ultimately the source of choice, and ultimately the source of aliveness. And the infinite being is the source of responsibility. So, as a little being, we try to be responsible and try to, fill this box and show up here, and then we're tugged this way and that. And it's very hard. But the kind of responsibility that life calls forth, well, that kind of responsibility is the most natural thing. Responsible for all that is. And I can go into that in a lot of ways, but just that this that I am is creating this life. So all that I experience is part of this creation. All belongs. And the impact that has on the body to come and see all belongs. All of my experiences belong. Everything that happens is originating from that deepest well of what I am. So, for example, I got into a fender bender with the post along the side of the road. And while, there was the individual wanted to start second guessing and regretting and all that, it just ran out of steam. It could only go that far for so long before this inner wisdom was like, so this belongs here too. And I wanted something out of that experience. What is it that I'm wanting out of that experience? And I saw ways I could have followed some internal signals sooner and been able to avoid that. I love learning how to listen more and more carefully. And I saw how the money it's going to take for the repair, it's like, oh, wow, look, this thousands of dollars are going to flow out. And I could feel the lack of attachment that, oh, I thought they were going towards this. Now they're going towards that. And it was really great to just feel that less attachment. That whole experience turned out to have many benefits. So there's this amazing level of responsibility and an amazing ability to not be tied into outcomes, which is normally, quite opposites. You think you're very responsible and then you've got to make it happen a certain way. But this is not that. It's responsibility with discovery. Responsibility with discovery rather than attachment to outcome. And as I continue to tune into this that I am, the fear of death is obviously gone. There's aliveness. Aliveness is forever. And the defensiveness and, attachments and, forcing things, all of that gets to relax because I'm fundamentally unharmable. The life flowing through me, that is what I am. I'm fundamentally unharmable. So there's a tuning in to this unharmability, and there's a tuning in to wisdom. I can just feel this sense that at each moment, whatever is the most life affirming option is available. I can look to see, oh, this person needs help. I don't know how it's going to affect my life, but I feel very called to help there. So I help there. It could be financially, it could be, you know, exposing myself to some disease that whatever, is whatever it is, any kind of exposure, right? There's this trust. I can see a, a young person in my life, or anybody in my life, my husband, making a choice that looks extremely risky to me. And, if there's an opportunity to provide some alternatives to them, great. But if there isn't, there's this knowing that the wisdom is is flowing. There's no lack of wisdom at any moment. So there's like this inner gratitude, inner contentedness, inner wisdom, inner participation, and the constant letting go. And that is the difference between not knowing what we are when we're trying to control so much, and knowing what we are when instead we're so engaged with life rather than with protection. And as we do that more and more, I've discovered it changes my relationship with my body, and it changes my relationship with how I engage in the world. So that's what I'm going to go forward with in the next couple of videos.